This is ODAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Joy, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me back. The first time was fun. I'm excited for round 2.
That was fun, huh? Yeah, we got some really good feedback, and I'm excited to continue the meditations with Joy. It might be the only time I actually meditate this month. I don't know. But wow, that was like healing balm to my heart. So thanks for doing that. And I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I'll admit I'm a little bit, I'm both excited and a little bit apprehensive about this one. You know, I kind of go with what's put on my heart. Mm-hmm. It's not premeditated when we come together. It's just sort of what's coming up. And what's coming up today is a lot of reflecting on the difficulties of life.
Right.
You know, like that there are all these different seasons of life, and some of them are painful, mm-hmm. and some of them are uncertain and scary, and a lot of them are, mm-hmm. right? And I was talking with a couple girlfriends today in recovery about their own experiences with pain, mm-hmm. whether it's pain in a relationship, you know, uncertainty about how a relationship is going, a really significant relationship. Is it going to work out? Is it not? And the heartache that can come with sitting in that uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Or something like, I have a physical injury. I'm in pain. I'm in physical pain. And how that physical pain might motivate me to, you know, my friend get up every morning and do yoga, and the benefit that she's finding in doing yoga every day, but she wouldn't have done that if she hadn't been in pain.
Right.
You know, and so just reflecting on, you know, what if these painful, uncomfortable, uncertain seasons in our life are really worthy of our gratitude.
Oh.
In kind of a weird way.
I was going to say, gratitude's not usually the first thing that comes up for me when I think about...
No, what comes up for me is how the hell do I make this stop immediately?
Right. Yeah.
And usually all kinds of, you know, resistance,
right.
and all kinds of, you know, wanting to blame something or someone.
Absolutely.
Or wanting to blame myself, or...
mind control kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm scared is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I go into hyper control mode. Let's get into action. Let's do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And I go into like elimination mode, meaning like the process of elimination. Like clearly something around me is making this pain happen.
Right.
And so if I can just find it and get rid of it,
right,
then everything will be okay.
Right.
And the last place I want to consider that the discomfort's coming from is like my own resistance to what is, or my own story that I'm telling myself about what's happening. It's always his fault or her fault or my job's fault. It's always something outside of me. I've had experiences in my life where it felt like my life was like a game board, and with all these pieces all over it, and I just wanted to pick it up and shake all the pieces off and just start over fresh.
Just wipe the board clean.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
So, yeah, you know, and there's been a lot going on in our world.
Mm-hmm. A lot of scary stuff.
Yeah, and I, you know, talking to people at work and in my personal life, and even just being, you know, even just getting on Facebook, you can feel the angst. You know, there's been tragedies that have happened, and there's heavy-heartedness, and there's fear. And, you know, we're all kind of sitting in a lot of uncertainty right now. And maybe it's no different than it normally is, but it definitely feels that way.
So what do you do? What's the antidote to all that fear? I mean, I'm skipping right to the solution.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm laughing because it's like my head wants to say, oh, I have the answer.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that...
You actually might have the answer.
I might have
Like, what do you do?
yeah, I have like a suggestion, I guess, of a lot of it's, I think, about how we look at things. And so, and I talked in the last podcast about the relationship that we have with things, right? Like we can be in relationship with the same thing in lots of different ways. And so, and part of the theme of what we've been talking about is how do I be in a relationship of allowing and acceptance, you know? So if I'm going through difficulty, right, I have choices about how I show up in that difficulty. So we were talking a little bit about something going on in my own life. Just a couple of days ago, I've been living in the same place for the last 8 years, and I'm really comfortable there. You know, I've got all my stuff in all their places. I know my neighborhood. I can get to my grocery store, lickety split. You know, everything's really convenient for me. It's 5 miles away from my job. I'm comfortable. My rent is well below market. And I just found out on Monday that my landlord is selling the property.
Oh, man.
And this just happened 2 years ago. And I was really surprised that my initial reaction to her email was peace. Either that or it was numbness.
Denial.
Yeah, but I think it was peace. And I'm not going to say that I haven't had some fear about it, because I have. You know, this is the Bay Area. And for those of you who are listening in other places, let me break it down for you. The Bay Area might be one of the most expensive places to live, definitely in the country.
For sure.
I don't know about the world within the world, but maybe
like Japan is pretty expensive.
Right. There might be a couple places that are more expensive, but we're talking about living in a 500 square foot box and paying $1,800 a month. And
that's below market value, right?
That's kind of what market is. I'm paying below that, but you know, so you can see how the fear can kick up.
Sure.
The fear of, you know, financial insecurity, the fear of, you know, how am I going to have a roof over my head? Am I going to have my needs met, you know, the way I want them to be?
Right.
And so I could feel that storm kind of kicking up inside, and that resistance, you know, that part of me that wants to fight, that part of me that wants to go, you know, obsessively search on Craigslist to try to find a new place to live, and wants to call up every person I know. That action, like you were talking about, the fear that makes me want to control it.
Right.
But then there's this other part that's like, okay, this is recovery that you're living in, that you've chosen to live in, and recovery's a moment at a time.
Right.
You know, and recovery's about doing the next right thing. And recovery's about, you know, taking the action and letting go of the result. And it's about turning it over to a power greater than yourself, and trusting the process. And so even though there's a part of me that wants to move at that really fast-paced, obsessive kind of cuckoo rate, there's this other part of me that just wants to breathe into it and just wants to look at this as adversity giving me an opportunity to rely that much more on my higher power, to strengthen my faith muscle.
Got it. Yeah.
So maybe this adversity might be really good for me.
You know, it sounds like you're talking about an opportunity for growth.
Right, the effing opportunity for growth.
What do they call it? FUBAR. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for growth, and it's an opportunity to practice just taking it one moment at a time.
Yeah.
And not forcing it. Like I might botch this a little bit, but I remember studying about Taoism, and there's this concept in Taoism about, you know, bending like a reed in the water.
Okay.
Like just allowing yourself to bend with the flow of the river. And then there's this concept of like trying to swim upstream and effort and force against the current, and how much harder it is to fight what is.
Right, yeah.
And there's like a gentleness and just, you know, saying, okay.
Right, just
so be
with
it.
the flow.
Right.
No, it's interesting. I have a friend who, this was a long time ago, but when her and her husband found out they were pregnant, it was not good news. I think they were having difficulty in the relationship. It was looking like it wasn't going to work out. And then she finds out she's pregnant. And I think the, you know, soon-to-be father went to his friend in total panic, despair, fear, And the friend said, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to you? You know, and that is not my initial response. Mm-hmm. When I'm presented with something that is frightening, that I didn't necessarily want to have happen, you know, my initial response is, I don't want this. Mm-hmm. You know, like when the shit hits the fan, you know, what's my reaction going to be? Besides duck.
Shake all the pieces off the board.
Shake all the pieces off. Yeah, so it doesn't really allow for the fact that maybe this is the best thing that could ever happen.
Right.
Yeah. So there's always that silver lining, and there's these ideas that, you know, God can turn anything into something positive if we're willing to stay open and look for the good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think part of my apprehension in just even trying to address this topic is the real desire for it not to sound Pollyanna-ish, like, oh, I should just be happy all the time.
Yeah, because that's not real.
No, it's not real. It's not real at all. And, you know, sometimes suffering is part of life. You know, that's just, we experience pain as people. And I guess the purpose of talking about it is just, you know, so that we do find a way to be with our pain in ways that maybe are a little bit more constructive, but not that we have to make them all pretty and shiny and put bows on them.
Right. I think it's so important to, you know, it's process, right? You process the feelings, which means feel it, talk about it, you know. I don't know. I do things like, I do talk, you know, when something comes up for me, I do talk about it a lot, or I read, or sometimes exercise is good just to burn off negative energy depending on what's going on. But, or eat. Sugar.
That's one of my favorites.
Specifically.
Yeah.
But no, there's definitely there's the healthy way, and then there's the other ways.
Yeah.
You know, and we all know what not to do. But I think the challenge is, how do you allow for that space? I think the meditation is going to be great because it does just make a little space for letting yourself process those feelings so that you can resolve them.
Exactly. We talked a little bit offline about resilience, you know, and this is another thing that's been kind of playing in my mind lately about, you know, kind of what does it mean to be like stress hardy or resilient? Like I can roll with things or stay with things. I don't know about you, but, you know, in my disease, I had very little tolerance for discomfort. And especially in relationships, you know, there was just such a tremendous amount of anxiety that would kick up for me in relationships that generally my solution was just to hit the road.
Are you talking like with your girlfriends or like in romantic relationships?
More in romantic relationships.
Yeah, just cut and run.
Oh, yeah. Cut and run. 3-month limit. I'm out. Peace out. Nice knowing you. I mean, it was
you seem like such a nice girl, Joy.
I know. Well, I mean, and it was about fear.
Yeah.
You know, it was really about fear, and it was about, I have a tendency, and I don't know if this is the human experience or the alcoholic experience, but I have a tendency that whatever I'm feeling in the moment, what my mind tells me is you're going to feel this way forever.
Oh, sure.
You know, so that...
I think that's a human experience.
Yeah, so that...
It feels like it's going to last forever.
It does. And so when I would get into discomfort in a relationship, the story was it's going to be like this forever. And I would bolt and panic. And what I'm starting to learn now that I'm having some, you know, I'm starting to learn how to stay. I'm starting to learn how not to use running as my tool for dealing with my discomfort and not use assuming that it's because of this other person that I'm feeling uncomfortable. And so there's a resilience. And what I'm learning as I ride the waves of relationship is that it really ebbs and flows. I mean, there are good days and there are hard days. And I love the good days. And when I have good days, it's really easy to look back on the hard days with fondness, like, oh, look at what it taught me. During the hard days, it's really hard for me to stay with it. But I think that's what meditation teaches us how to do. It teaches us how to stay with our experience and stop fighting it and just kind of be with it and allow it to kind of have its own process and its own its own course, you know? And so I have found more and more that the darkest hour really is before the dawn. You know, that right when it feels like nothing's ever going to get better, for me, usually within 24 hours, the miracle happens. You know, they say don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. So that resilience, that willingness to stay, you know, with the discomfort, and see how it kind of gives way into something beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like at the end of that difficult period is a moment of surrender. You know, they say don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. But what happens for me in that 5 minutes is I usually get, I don't know, like soul tired. Like, you know what? I just don't want to do this anymore. Like whatever it is I'm fighting, I'm done because I want peace.
Right.
And whatever it is that's standing in the way between me and peace, whether it's obsessing over work or whatever, just, you know, I surrender. I'm just like, whatever. And sometimes it's like, God, you better fix me because I can't change my heart's desire. If this isn't your will for me, better fucking fix me because I can't do it. Like me and God are cool like that, so I can be like, fucking fix me. Or not, but I certainly can't do this anymore. Like my way is clearly not working. But it's just very difficult for me to let go. Like I see resilience, like I get that confused with resourcefulness. I feel like I'm a really resourceful person, and I do have a high tolerance for pain in some cases. So it is tough for me to let it go, let that shit go, and just allow maybe something better, because sometimes it's something better comes along. So that's not typically a thought that comes to me easily, is there might be something better.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
as we can't see what we can't see.
right.
So it just appears that this is all there is. And I know I forget all the time that there are infinite possibilities in every moment. You know, we never know what's going to show up moment by moment. That's part of I guess you could look at it as the adventure of life. Some people look at it as the horror of life. It all depends on your perspective. And that's the thing. It's like we get to pick our perspective about it. You know, we get to be surprised by life over and over. And they talk about in recovery how we won't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. You know, that the darkest times that we went through are going to become our greatest assets because we get to share about them with other people and relate, and other people get to feel a sense of belonging.
Belonging, community. That's the antidote to the loneliness.
And that's how we heal. So again, is the adversity really bad? You know, is it, or is it purposeful?
It's still painful, but it's purposeful.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think that's what helps me a lot when I'm going through a hard time, is feeling that there's a sense of purpose in it.
Right.
Meaning in it.
For?
Yeah, that it's serving something. And, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, birth, like the metaphor of literally giving birth, you know, for new life. There's this painful labor process that has to happen that no human being, you know, is excited about. At least not that I'm aware of. You know, I've never been through it, but you know,
it's bad.
Yeah, you've been through it, and I got girlfriends and sisters and a mom, and
you've seen it.
Yeah, and I mean, and maybe that's why I haven't
We've
done
all
it.
seen it on TV. I know.
And it's part of, you know, bringing about new life, you know, and we may not be going through that type of a labor, but sometimes we're giving birth to something else in our life. Maybe it's a new business or a transformation in how we experience, you know, relationship. Like I've experienced that in recovery, but it's come with sticking with some pain.
Right. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, I've been making myself crazy with struggling and striving, but that idea gives me a lot of peace that maybe, you know, the pain won't be for nothing, that maybe there's something, you know, being birthed on the other side. So
yeah, how do I just breathe into that too, and just allow some space for it? Like, okay, this is just a season.
Right. This
is a season. How do I, you know, cooperate with this season of my life, even though I don't like it and it doesn't feel good? You know, we can still kind of nurture it. so I can hurry up and get the hell out of there now.
Because, listen, at the end of the day, we're all trying to be about happy. Give me some more happy.
Yeah.
So, no, we can totally, we do have the power to interpret our experience.
Yeah.
And the goal is to be happier and more peaceful. So I think that's valid.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
valid goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would shoot for peace, peace
Yeah.
or joy.
Acceptance.
I love the like the spiritual qualities that they talk about, the spiritual qualities of a higher power that are there in the hard times and the good times.
Yeah.
That like there can be peace in the storm.
Right.
And that, happiness is when I find $100 bill on the street, and sadness is when I lose it. And joy is ever present. It's like we are made of the stuff of spirit, right? Yes. And the spirit is joy and peace and love. And so it's always there. It's just sometimes it's harder to be in touch with it.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that feels like a good place to wrap up the discussion part. And then we'll do, what did we say we were going to do, like 10 or 15 minutes meditation?
Yeah, last time we said 10 and it ended up being 20. So
Girl, I was so into it though.
I got lost in it. I was just kind of like, ooh, I was out there with you guys. So awesome. This time I'm going to really focus on keeping it to 10 because I know a lot of people are just getting started with meditation and meditating for 20 minutes can feel like, running 5 miles when you're just starting out.
Yeah.
So we'll try to shorten it a little bit this time so people can just sort of have
ease into it.
Yeah, just ease into it and start practicing where they feel comfortable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right. Well, we'll get into the meditation. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.